What is the actual size of our world? And what does the Bible mean by the axe is laid at the root? Let's take a look at a couple of photos and let's see how gigantic the trees used to be in the old world. And in the old world, the trees had to be huge. They had to be huge in order to support the giants that once lived in the old world. And so, how do you control a population that is gigantic? Well, you begin to cut down the trees, and you have the trees start all over again to regrow themselves in order to support a different size humanity. And so this is what is meant by the axe is laid at the root, that God is going to start all over again. And we have examples of this looking at these photos of these old gigantic trees that were cut down. The size of the old humanity was so huge that when the trees were cut down, when the axe was laid at the root for that humanity, their tree stumps became our mountains. Okay, so now let's talk more about the Illuminati Christmas ritual. Because cutting down the Christmas tree is the best way to resize humanity. So I want you to keep that in mind. The axe is laid at the root. Just like with the giants, we can see all across the world that these huge, enormous trees were cut down at the root. And these trees were so huge that they became our mountains. Talk about resizing the population. But they are getting you to resize the population every Christmas season when you cut down the so-called Christmas tree. Now let's go to Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1, where it says, "Hear ye the word of Yahweh, speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen." Right? Because what the heathen is doing is that they understand how to resize the population. All right, so learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. All right, so what they're doing is going to backfire upon them. And as they are trying to resize us again, they are going to be resized only, okay? And this is what the greater Yahweh is saying. All right, it says, "For the custom of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. The axe is laid at the root." Okay? "For the custom of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not." Now, I was reading a post where another brother put up a picture quoting these verses here in Jeremiah chapter 10. And another demonic brother responded to his post by saying that Jeremiah chapter 10 is not speaking about the Christmas tree. But what other tree do you deck with silver and gold? That you fasten it down so that it sits on your floor. I don't know of any other tree but the Christmas tree, but let's stay focused here. Okay, so Yahweh has warned us not to participate in the Illuminati Christmas ritual. Now, found something very on point as to why the Heavenly Father said this to us. Because the Christmas tree is very important. If you're going to cut down a tree, you do not cut down those trees. And for this, let's go to Enoch chapter 4, where it says, now it's talking about they are those that come from heaven. They consider and behold every tree. So everyone that comes from heaven, we consider and behold every tree, how it appears to wither, and every leaf to fall, except 14 trees, which are not deciduous, which wait from the old to the appearance of the new leaf. All right, so these trees regenerate themselves to the point that you don't even notice that the leaves of these trees are regenerating. They just look green all the time. And they do this every 2 to 3 winters. So why would you cut down a tree during the wintertime when it's regenerating itself? But pay attention, because Enoch says that there are 14 trees. Now let's go to this other article. See, what they're doing is they're resizing the next generation. They're resizing the next generation to make it smaller and smaller and smaller so that they can dominate over top of it. Now look at this headline here. It says 14 types of Christmas trees and which is best for you this year. So how many trees did Enoch say do not ever lose their leaves because they regenerate within themselves? And the old leaf does not go until the new leaf is there to replace it. So here, they're telling you there are 14 main types of Christmas trees. Let's look at these trees. All right. This one, white pine. A Pharisee fir, a Douglas fir. It's one of those 14 trees that you do not cut down because they are stronger than the other trees. Their life force is greater than the other trees. A normal tree will wither in the fall going into winter because those trees are not able to regenerate themselves. So their leaves die off, and from spring they have to start all over again. But these trees do not do that. They are special trees. Noble fir. Okay, so these trees are very special tree. This is a white spruce, grand fir, blue spruce. Look at that. You're not going to be able to tell if this tree is regenerating itself or not because it does it instantly. It's under a different command than the rest of the trees on this earth. So you do not want to cut down this tree. So this is why Ahawa told us not to participate in it, because these trees are special. Black Hill spruce. It's not showing us the photo for that one. So my internet has to catch up, but y'all get the point. Thus saith Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For celebrating Christmas is pointless. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, and it's pointless if you sit back and you think about it. Why is it pointless? Because you control the size of the humanity by the height of the trees that exist. So when the axe is laid at the root and the tree is getting smaller and smaller, humanity will also get smaller and smaller. Okay, so let's go to Yale Environment 360, where they're asking the question, are trees sentient beings? Certainly, says German forester. And this German forester is this guy, Peter, okay? And we'll call him Peter W for now. But let's listen to some of the things that they talk about in this interview. And I'm going to start right here. When Peter says, I visited some other districts that were operating in an eco-friendly way, and I thought that's the way wood should be managed. But the problem is, I was thinking of trees as a commodity, as something to sell, not as living beings. I had to learn from the people of the community where my forest is located, and how to take a closer look at trees, to see them as unique individuals. I also started reading the latest scientific research that began to present me with a new picture of trees as highly sensitive social beings. So they say social beings. And Peter says, we all learned in school that evolution advances by pitting individuals against every other in the struggle for survival. As a forester, I learned that trees are competitors that struggle against each other for light, for space. But we are now learning that individuals of a species are actually working together. They are cooperating with one another. How exactly do trees cooperate with one another? Peter says, one thing is that mother trees suckle their children. They feed the young trees just enough sugar produced by its own photosynthesis to keep it from dying. Trees in a forest of the same species are connected by the roots, which grow together like a network. And let me say this, just like I will always testify that when Ahava Shai says in Revelation that he is the root and the offspring of David, he is the consciousness of David. He is the consciousness of Black people. This is an example of that. The root represents the brain, okay? And this is why the scriptures say we must be of the same mind. We must be connected together, all of us. And the way that we live and the way that we think, the religions and all of these philosophies just keeps us from being connected together like these trees. But Peter goes on to say, their root tips have highly sensitive brain-like structures that can distinguish whether the root that it encounters in the soil is its own root, the root of another species, or the root of its own species. If it encounters its own kind, I don't know if scientists yet know how this happens, but we have measured with radioactive marked sugar molecules that there is a flow from healthy trees to sick trees, so that they will have an equal measure of food and energy available. How do the healthy trees that feed their sick companions benefit? Take a listen. Peter says, if sick trees die, they fall, which opens gaps in the canopy. The climate becomes hotter and drier. and the environment becomes worse for the trees that remain. So all of you who participate in the Christmas ritual by cutting down these precious trees, you are contributing to said global warming. Okay? So let me read that again. If sick trees die, they fall, which opens gaps in the canopy. The climate becomes hotter and drier, and the environment becomes worse for the trees that remain. In the forest I manage, students from said university did a study that shows that the parts of the forest that grew naturally were 3 degrees Celsius cooler than those that are managed and disturbed by humans. Okay, think about that. The world is trying to limit warming from climate change to 2 degrees, but undisturbed forests can do even better than that. Forest creates their own microclimate. When you cut down all these trees for whatever reason, including Christmas trees, when we thin forest, the temperatures rises, the humidity goes down, evaporation increases, and all the trees begin to suffer. So trees have a stake in supporting one another to keep all members of the community healthy. Okay, now I'm not going to go much more into this right now, but I want you to take a listen and understand that trees are basically a organic Wi-Fi system to themselves and to us. They give us information. And to prove that, watch this next video.
First African-American car manufacturer in the country, I think the only manufacturer in the country. And what's interesting about the Patterson Car Company, it was in Ohio. Their cars were considered higher quality than the Model T cars that Henry Ford had.
DeRay brothers, Ford and stolen. That's why all over the world, Ford never gets credit for inventing a car. He gets credit for mass production.
The cars began coming off the assembly line at the rate of 1 every 40 seconds.
Until that, they take one car and put it together. But where did you get that from? George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver was never around black folks till he went to Tuskegee. His mother and father died or was killed. A white family adopted him from Iowa. Black folks in Iowa, such football players. So they went to grade school, high school, and they didn't have no secondary school. They didn't have enough people. And so now George Washington Carver leaves after get all this education come out of there. He goes to Tuskegee. Henry Ford came down to visit, like he always used to see his friend. He said, Mr. Ford, I got something here to study plants. So if you take this back and give it to your engineers, they can build more than one car at a time. He took it back. Mass production all over the world is called the plant, right?
Everybody made joke of him because they said, well, what, the plants are talking to him? Is this how he's getting these properties of these plants? And George Washington Carver, in his quiet, dignified way, said, well, who taught me? I'm not saying that they talk to me like they got a tongue, but I can look at a plant and see what it can do for the human family.
Okay, so let's go back to this article here. where E360 says, you tell one amazing story in the book. Are trees keeping neighboring stumps alive? Peter says, this one beech tree was cut 400 to 500 years ago by a charcoal maker, but the stump is still alive. We found green chlorophyll under the thick bark. The trees have no leaves to create sugar, so the only explanation is that it has been supported by neighboring trees for more than 4 centuries. I made this discovery myself and later learned that other foresters have observed this happening as well. E360 says, are there other ways that trees help each other? Peter says, we know that trees also exchange information. When one tree is attacked by insects, we can measure electrical signals that pass through the bark into the roots and from there into fungi networks in the soil that alert nearby trees of the danger. The trees pay for this service by supplying the fungi with sugar from their photosynthesis, and the fungi in turn protect their hosts from attacks by dangerous species of fungi and contamination by heavy metals. Trees also send chemical signals through the air when they are attacked by insects. Nearby trees receive this message and have the time to prepare their defenses. Scientists like Susan Simnard, who teaches forestry at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, have labeled this amazing web of communication the Wood Wide Web. This recalls or brings to mind that movie called The Happening, when the trees began to attack humans. Let's take a look.
I forgot where I am.
You're at the place where the killers meet to decide what to do with the crippled girl.
That's right. That's right.
Did you hear that? That's funny. It's weird. Those people look like they're clawing at themselves. Is that blood? Claire, are you seeing this? Claire? Claire? Claire?
What page was I on? Page.
What the fuck is happening? Gotta go. Get me out. What the fuck is happening? Gotta go. Get me out.
What the fuck is happening? Gotta go. Get me out.
What the fuck is happening? Gotta go. Get me out.
I'm Savannah Guthrie alongside Matt Lauer and Al Roper. Will someone do the junior high hug dance? It's like this. You gotta make it real awkward.
That's exactly how you have to have a certain amount of distance between the bodies in junior high.
Yes, like they say in Catholic school, leave room for the Holy Ghost. Anyway, there is a lot of memories today, actually. It's a big day in music history.
What's that? That could only be the musical stylings of Victor Oladipo, who is the reigning two-time champion of the All-Star Weekend player talent show.
You are talented. I give you a little credit on that. A lot of credit. You're very talented. I mean, you're not a karaoke guy like me, but you can actually. You know they call me O'Brown Eyes, right?
As a matter of fact, you both have experience singing New York, New York. His was at the Slam Dunk Contest. Yours was in Vegas.
Yes.
We had the show out there. Here's just a little sampling.
But it's been a heck of a ride, to be honest. I really can't complain. Yeah, I was kind of I was a little down. I found out I was injured and I had to have surgery again, or with another knee. But at the end of the day, I have amazing teammates. Guys like Draymond, everybody on this team, they come over there, they wrap their hands around me like, yo, we got.
Bro, watch my nigga Jalen Rose, though. Look at my nigga Jalen Rose. Tell me that's a fucking robot or some shit. That ain't no fucking human being. Look at this nigga. He didn't move, blink, or nothing. Bro, look at this shit. This nigga a robot too, man. They got my niggas. That's my nigga. He from my city. No, they got him too. No, this shit wicked than a bitch. I just peeped this shit watching the game in the finals. Damn.
Now, this is a story of an amazingly beautiful young woman. She was training to be a pro football cheerleader, and she got a flu shot. She says that shot has destroyed her chances of happiness. We told you about her story last time. Now, Les Trent is with this woman for a first-hand look at what her life has become.
She's the beautiful cheerleader whose heartbreaking story is shocking the nation. 25-year-old Desiree Jennings showed me how she can't walk without twisting, jerky movements. But she walks backwards normally. Doctors say she has a rare 1 in a million neurological disorder that was triggered 10 days after she got a seasonal flu shot.
Started with me not being able to eat without passing out.
You couldn't eat without passing out. I visited Desiree and her husband Brendan at their home in Ashburn, Virginia, to see what their daily life is like. She has to go up and down stairs backwards because something as simple as walking forward can be dangerous.
And here's the unusual part about the disorder. Take a look at this. Desiree can run just fine. It's only when she stops. You see, that's where the spasms start. Now you can walk backwards though, and it'll make it better, right?
Yeah.
She runs with a normal stride, and as I ran with her, she even spoke normally.
And now you can talk.
Yeah, it's weird. It fixes as soon as I start running.
I mean, you sound.
I know, it's great, isn't it?
You sound amazing. And then you stop, and that's what happens.
Desiree got a flu shot on August 23rd. 10 days later, she came down with what doctors have diagnosed as dystonia, a rare neurological disorder. Her jerking and twisting are the result of uncontrollable muscle contractions. There is no known cure.
Are y'all ready?
Yes.
This is home video of Desiree as a beautiful bride when she married Brendan 2 years ago. And this is a photo when she was training to be a cheerleader for the Washington Redskins. Doctors say what happened to Desiree should discourage people from getting flu shots. But here's what the woman who's on the wrong side of being 1 in a million says.
Running has to be a relief.
The only thing I have left.
The only thing you have left.
Okay, so let's look at something that is hidden from view. Okay, there's a relationship between the trees, the Israelites, and the baptism of fire. So let's read some scriptures that show the relationship between trees, the Israelites, and the baptism of fire. And possibly why the white man loves cutting down these trees, because he understands what is going to happen at the end of the world. And if I was him, I would want to cut down as many trees as possible if I knew what he knows. So let's see what he must understand is happening. Okay, and this is Isaiah chapter 14 verse 5, and it says, and the Lord has broken the staff of the wicked. He has broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers, because the rulers and the wicked are those that are the principalities and powers of darkness that are inside this world. They're not aliens coming from outside the world. They are the rulers that are already on this earth, ruling this world. All right, and it says, he who smote the people with the wrath, in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee. Okay, so the trees are going to rejoice when the kingdom of God begins to emerge into power. When it comes into view, when it manifests itself. Okay, so the trees are going to rejoice. Okay, now let's go to Baruch chapter 5. Okay, now let's read here in verse 8. Now this is Baruch chapter 5, and this is verse 8. And it says, moreover, even the woods and every sweet smelling tree shall overshadow Israel by the commandment of God. So the woods, the trees, and every sweet smelling tree is going to interact with Israel. But how will these trees interact with the Israelites? Let's go to Isaiah chapter 55. Right, and it says in verse 12, and it says, for ye shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills shall break forth before you into singing. And all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Okay, so the trees, the hills, the mountains, everything, all at the forest is going to rejoice when Yahweh brings the Israelites into the new age, because the things that are going on in this age will not happen in that age. Okay, now let's go to Revelations chapter 11. All right, and it says here, okay, and it says here, these are the two olive trees. Now these trees are speaking about people. All right, so there's a connection between trees and people. Okay, these are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. All right, so they're standing before Christ. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devoureth their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. All right, so now we're going to see that the unquenchable fire is something that we breathe out. All right, so we already know that the trees breathe out oxygen and we breathe that in, and we release carbon monoxide, and the trees breathe that in. So there is a relationship between the trees and man in general. But in this moment, the trees and the man are going to have, the Israelite man is going to play the part of the baptism of fire, and it's going to happen between the trees and the Israelite males. Okay, so it says, if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devour their enemies. Okay, remember that. Isaiah chapter 10 verse 16. All right, and it says, therefore shall Ahawashah, the Lord of hosts, send among his fat ones leanness, and under his glory he shall kindle a burning like the burning of a fire. Okay, so this is not like fire like you see normal fire. This is something different. Okay, and the light of Israel shall be for a fire. So the Israelites are going to possess this unquenchable fire. Okay, so the light of Israel shall be for a fire, and his Holy One for a flame, and it shall burn and devour his thorns and barriers in one day, and shall consume the glory of his forest and of his fruitful field, both soul and body. And they shall be as when the standard bearer fainteth. For the rest of the trees of his forest, or the rest of the people, shall be few, that a child may write them. Okay. So what is this talking about? This is talking about that unquenchable fire that the Israelites are going to possess when they breathe in something. And if anyone comes up to them to speak against them or acknowledge that they're the Israelites' enemies, fire is going to come out of their mouth and consume their enemy. And this fire has the ability to destroy both soul and body. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 33. All right, now listen. It says, now will I rise, saith Yahweh. Now will I be exalted. Now will I lift up myself. Ye shall conceive chaff. Ye shall bring forth stubble. Your breath as fire. You see, this is how the unquenchable fire is going to go around the world. It's going to go from the mouths of the Israelites, all right? And it shall devour you. So this new oxygen, if you're not right with God, it's going to devour you, right? And the people shall be as the burning of lime, as thorns cut up shall they be burned in the fire. Okay? Hear ye that are far off what I have done. What I have done. And ye that are near, acknowledge my might. All right, so this is talking to all of you black people, like black Christians who want to remain ignorant and just totally go against the word. You're going to have to acknowledge his might, okay? So, because it says here, for the sinners in Zion are afraid. Fearfulness has surprised the hypocrites. You see, because all of the black Christians, they're not thinking about any of these things. So when it comes to pass and we begin to breathe from a new atmosphere, a new type of oxygen, they're not going to understand what's going on. All right. And the sinners of Zion are afraid. Fearfulness has surprised the hypocrite. Who among us shall dwell with the devouring fire? Who among us shall dwell with the everlasting burning? So this new world is going to have a type of oxygen that if you're not down with the program, it's going to begin to burn you up. As soon as you open up your mouth, okay, ye shall conceive chaff. Ye shall bring forth stubble. Your breath as fire shall devour you. So just like you have a lot of black Christians who, when we tell you that the Heavenly Father said, don't celebrate Christmas, don't cut down them Christmas trees, and they want to come and they want to speak about the opposite thing and say they don't have to do that, and that was back in the day, and I don't believe that Jeremiah 10:1 is speaking about the Christmas tree. Well, as soon as they begin to speak, the trees are going to release a certain chemical. They're going to breathe that in, and as they begin to breathe out, that specialized oxygen is going to begin to consume their bodies. And the more that they continue to talk as our enemies, they're going to begin to get burnt up to the point that the first phase is to consume their bodies, okay? And then if they keep on, they're going to lose their soul. Right? This fire, this unquenchable fire, is going to destroy their soul. Okay? And ye shall conceive chaff. Ye shall bring forth stubble. Your breath as fire shall devour you. And the people shall be as the burning of lime, Okay, so there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be burning because of this situation. Okay, so it says the sinners in Zion are afraid. Filthiness has surprised the hypocrites. Who among us shall dwell with the burning fire? Who among us shall dwell with the everlasting burning? Right? The answer to that is he that walketh righteously and that speaketh uprightly. He that despiseth the gain of oppression, that shaketh his hands from the holding of bribes, that stoppeth his ears from hearing of blood, that shutteth his eyes from seeing evil. So, you brothers that allow the women to speak in the churches, that is not hiding your eyes from evil, because that's evil. That's going against the commandment of the Lord. That is going against the law of God. Okay? So the only ones that are going to be able to survive this devouring fire, or this unquenchable fire, this baptism of fire, are those that are doing what they're supposed to do. He shall dwell on high. His place of defense shall be the minions of rocks. Bread shall be given him, his water shall be sure. Thine eyes shall see the king in his beauty. They shall behold the land that is very far off. Now let's go to this article.
My name is Dan Warner. I'm a PhD student in the Water Science and Policy program at University of Delaware. Over the past 2.5 years, I've been doing field research in a nearby forest in Maryland. My focus is on methane, a powerful greenhouse gas about 25 times stronger than carbon dioxide. I'm working to find out whether soil, trees, and decaying wood on the forest floor act as sources or sinks of methane. In other words, are these parts of the forest releasing methane, or do they take it up? The answer is important for estimating whether or not the entire ecosystem is a net source or sink when you add up all these parts. As a whole, upland forests usually act as a sink, meaning that they take up methane. But using very sensitive instruments and examining some of the parts of the forest individually, we find that some can emit methane while others consume it. Surprisingly, we found that trees in the forest release methane from their trunks. We know that these tree trunks are emitting methane, but we don't know where that methane is coming from. It may be produced by internal rotting within the trunk or in hot spots in the soil, where it is then transported up through the tree's vascular system and into the atmosphere. We hope that our research enhances understanding about the role forests and vegetation play in global greenhouse gas models.
Okay, so in understanding why you shouldn't cut down the Christmas tree, we have to go to Obadiah chapter 1, verse 15, right, where it says, "But the day of Yahweh is near upon all the heathen." The heathens are the focal point in this verse. Okay, for the day of the Lord is near upon all heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thy own head. What is he talking about? What is this talking about? Well, it's talking about Christmas. All right. And it says, "Thus saith Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the custom of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe." Okay, So Howard said, learn not the way of the heathen. Why? Because Lucifer and his peoples, when they were in heaven, were cast out of heaven and brought down here to the earth. And when they came down to the earth, the people began to go out into the forest and cut down these trees. Okay? Because of the sign of heaven. They hate it. They are dismayed at this sign. And what was the sign of heaven? And that sign is Lucifer coming down to the earth. This is what Christmas is. It is the acknowledgement that Lucifer came to the earth. And it says, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? See, when he came down, they ripped out all the trees. And they scaled and redesigned humanity to a smaller scale so that they could rule over us. It would be easier to rule over us. All right, let's recap. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? So what did Lucifer do? Son of the morning. How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weakens the nation? Now let's go back to Obadiah. All right. So it says, for the day of the Lord is near upon all heathens. Why is the day of the Lord near upon all the heathen? And that is very simple. Because the heathen that is being referred to is Edom. Okay, Lucifer is Edom. Lucifer is the white man. And he was cast out of heaven. Now let's listen. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith Yahweh Elohim concerning Edom, concerning white people. We have heard a rumor from Yahweh. An ambassador is sent among the heathen. So they told him what was going to happen. And it says, arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. Thou art greatly despised. The pride of thy heart has deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the cliffs of the rocks, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, all right, they claim that they are Zeus and everybody else. And though thou set thy nest among the stars, all right, the space station, thence will I bring thee down, saith Yahweh. Okay, now if we go through and line up everything that is said in Obadiah, okay, so for an example, it says, the pride in thy heart has deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the cliffs of the rocks. Well, here's talk, says Edom, but in Isaiah, it says the same thing. For thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. You go back to Obadiah, and it says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, though thou set thy nest among the stars. It's talking about one and the same people. Okay, so Lucifer is Edom. Okay, and it says, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will set also up the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. And they did so with the space station. And it says, I will be like the Most High, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man? All right, he is no more in heaven. They can only be of this humanity. They can only exist in this humanity. They no longer exist above this world. Okay, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? Okay. So when we go back down into Obadiah, where they're talking about Edom, Esau, white people, and the Heavenly Father says that the day, that his day is near upon all the heathen. Well, when we go to Jeremiah chapter 10, when he tells us, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Why is the heathen dismayed at them? What is the sign of heaven? And what did they do? How have they fallen from heaven? What did they do? What did the white people do in heaven that caused them to be cast out of heaven? Well, we have to go to Revelations 12 to find out. Revelations 12 and verse 1. Pay attention, y'all. Okay, and it says, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. Okay, now how do we understand this? What white people did was, when Christ was born in heaven, they devised a plan to assassinate him in heaven, to devour him as soon as he was born. Okay, and this caused the war, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. Okay, Michael and all of our brethren fought against the white man. Okay, because the white man is Lucifer, the devil, Satan. He's all of these nicknames that are in the Bible. Okay, and Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels was cast out with him. Okay? And it says, I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God, the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. So that's how they ended up down here. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the races? Now, how do you weaken the race? You cut off their oxygen. And if you cut off the oxygen and the quality of oxygen, things don't grow like they're supposed to. Now let's go back here. Well, let me go back to Obadiah, or rather Jeremiah. All right, when it says, "Learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven." See, them casting Michael and the angels, protecting Christ and casting out Lucifer out of heaven was something that they were dismayed at. They were upset at that. But it's not for us to be upset at that they were cast out. Now remember, Revelations is telling us that he was born and there was a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. So he was born in heaven. And when this happened in heaven, they decided to get rid of him. They did not want him to rule over them. So what did they do? And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. All right, and the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, or to devour her child as soon as it was born. They were ready to offer Yahushua as soon as he was born in heaven. So why would they get down here to this earth on December 25th and set up Christmas? To honor him? No. They were not honoring him. Okay, let me see if I have a tab open. Now remember, when Satan, aka the white man, took Yahushua up into that very high mountain and showed him the kingdoms of the world in a moment in time. And he showed them what? The glory of those kingdoms in that moment in time. What did Satan show Christ in that in that account? He showed him Christmas, because the glory of all the world, of all the ages that Satan has been in power, that the Europeans have been in power, there is no greater day for them than Christmas. Let's take a look at this. And this is Luke chapter 4. All right, bear with this computer here. Okay, let's read it. And it says, and being 40 days tempted of the white man, and in those days he did eat nothing. And when they were ended, he afterward hungered. And the devil said unto him, the white man said unto him, if thou be the Son of God. See, he knows who he is, but they just playing this game. if thou be the Son of God, command these stones that it be made bread. And Ahahushai answered him, saying, it is written that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. And the devil, taking him up into an high mountain, showed him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. Okay, so he's showing Ahahushai everything that he planned to do, and the glory and the wealth and the riches and the women and the cars and the buildings and the clothes and the celebrations. And the devil said unto him, all this power will I give thee, and the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and to whosoever I will give it, and whosoever I will, I give it. If thou therefore wilt worship me, all shall be thine. So what did he show him? See, and the glory, what is the glory? What day, what time in Satan's kingdom, which is now, is more glorious than Christmas? There is not none. There is not none. Even when a man is married, right, and a couple are married and they go out to celebrate their anniversary, that is not glorified more than Christmas. The day that you were born is not glorified more than Christmas. New Year's Day is not glorified more than Christmas. Thanksgiving is not glorified more than Christmas. Mother's Day, Father's Day, Thanksgiving, Easter, or Valentine's Day, none of them compare to the glory of Christmas. All right? And so this is what he's telling them. The glory of them. I want to give you Christmas. Okay? I want you to give you the glory of Christmas. Okay? Because there's nothing greater in Satan's kingdom than the glory of Christmas. If thou therefore wilt worship me, all shall be thine. See, this is what you're doing. December 25th, you're worshiping Satan. And you are so fearful of it because you have learned the way of the heathen, and now you are afraid to admit the truth of the sign of heaven, or the heathen are dismayed at this sign. And what was the sign? That Satan was cast out. And so he was offering Ahahushai to reign during his period. It's more important to Satan that Christ would have bowed down to worship him during his time, because he has a short time compared to eternity. It's but 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, 4,000 years, 5,000 years, 7,000 years. It's but a glimpse when you have all eternity to reign. So if Christ rejected the glory of Satan's kingdoms, and the glory of his kingdom is Christmas, there's nothing that Satan has done that is more glorified throughout the world than Christmas. Even people that are not Christians celebrate Christmas. It's so glorious. Jehovah's Witnesses celebrate Christmas. Seventh-day Adventists, who are so-called observe the Sabbath, they celebrate Christmas. Muslims celebrate Christmas. People in China, Russia, all over the world, they celebrate Christmas. The rich, they celebrate Christmas. The poor, they celebrate Christmas. They following right behind the beast. And so what did our Christ say? And Yahushua answered and said unto him, Get thee behind me, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. All right. So he's telling him that he's about to worship him. So why would he accept this deal? Why are so many of y'all who claim to be following behind Christ, why do y'all accept this deal every Christmas? And let me read this. And he brought him to Jerusalem and set him on a pinnacle of the temple. Right? So he set him on the cross of the temple and said unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down from hence. For it is written, He shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee, and their hands shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. And Yahushua answered and said unto him, It is said, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. And when the devil had ended his all temptation, he departed from him for a season. Now let's go back here, where it says, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. I found this in the Testament of Solomon, starting at verse 34, where it says, this is Solomon speaking, when he's examining all the demons. Okay, and so it gets down to this part where Solomon says, and I glorified Elohim afresh, who gave me this authority, and ordered another demon to come before me. And there came 7 spirits, females, bound and woven together, fair in appearance and comely. And I, Solomon, seeing them, questioned them and said, Who are ye? But they, with one accord, said with one voice, We are the 33 elements of the cosmic ruler of darkness. But they, with one accord, said with one voice, We are the 33 elements of the cosmic ruler of the darkness.